send out this information for the consumers, becomes very easy for them to understand. And everyone becomes vigilant on what is this thing called vandalism. So someone is seeing someone is cutting the line, they're climbing and holding the light. They are much aware because they know that that activity that person is doing is going to affect finally me who's going to pay electricity. And so that's why we're about it. So briefly, vandalism in the electric sector is growing, it's a growing concern, and that is delivery. Remember what Amina talks about losses, it's also one of the effects of losses. So when we when people cut down, imagine that tower that is cut down. Now that computer, that line is going to be off. If that line is off, even if it's off for 1 hour, the people in the hospital who can die. There are people who are welding businessmen, factories. Do you know how much revenue they can lose? A lot of revenue. Just because someone has gone on that structure and cut it. And do you know what their intention is? Just to pick part of those, those angle bars and go and sell them and they make scrap. So we've been up to this vandalism thing a very long time. So we want to look at the causes, the effects, the legal consequences, and timeline. So we can damage such as transformers, and lines, um, the forms of are basically in terms of just the transformer. We have decided cases on some of these issues, cutting and stealing conductors, destruction of poles. Now we had what we call economic sabotage. Because at one point in 2023, I think when it was ending, we saw people cutting down poles, malicious. There's no intention in it. And consumers and they are not aware. I have my house. I was renting in it to so when I'm leaving, I say I must move with my meter. That meter is a property of the distribution company. Because when we go in the system, the distribution already knows that meter number is registered under the names of A is located at this place. Now you move the meter, you go with it, you get the Kamufu, those are consumers. So I don't not you. I hope people are not involved in such things. So you go with it and to your new house, whether you may be renting or built, and you put that meter there. Now we're going to have a challenge for that. Because the distributor knows that this meter is at the station and you have moved it. That is no offense. I want you to let our stop doing it. Do not encourage now. And when they say that that free connection can take 4 years. So some people opt to tap directly from the line. There were so many people who were illegally connected. I gave them a window to be able to go and apply formally and they are connected properly so that they don't continue having illegal connection. It is also an offense. does not belong to them, that constitutes an offense. So illegal collection is the most. What does it do? It causes losses. But it's also dangerous because the person who's doing it for you is not certified to do it. They can cause fires, cause death. So what are the effects? I already talked about power outages and then reliable supply. So the challenge is that the distributor is so busy trying to make sure that the network is on, that they don't have them come and go around maybe with the speaker in the town saying, you know what happened, come and cut down the happened still now, our power is off. So for you as a distributor, the different factors when the power is off because you have not planned for that outage. But every time you see a supply that is off and it's not planned, because the law also requires them to share planned outages. Which ones are planned outages? Where they are going to conduct the maintenance, they're going to do maintenance on the network, they have to switch it off so that they're able to work on that line when they are off. Where there is where the transmission has a problem, that is not the fault of the distributor, something has happened. But there's a lot that goes on. Our grid code is so huge and detailed, you remember that our previous presenter said that now when we open the sector of generation, we allowed very many people to come in the sector. So what does that mean? It means that transmission has to be seated somewhere saying, who is bring? Say now, Karuma bring, and then there's a small power plant somewhere. Also you bring, and then they are monitoring. They say, okay, that's oversupply, first wait. So you see that work, that engineering work that is happening, sometimes can also cause an outage out of the supply so that they try to correct that. But vandalism can also cause that. Increased cost of electricity, I already explained that. How the 300 million tower will finally feed into the tariff, and me and you are going to pay. Damage to equipment. Well, you already saw that picture where the equipment is damaged. So you have to look for a contractor, get them back on site, put back the structure. Remember, some of them have been cut. How long does that take? It's going to take some time. And so it means that going to be some interrupt. Okay, then we have talked about delays and reduced investor confidence. See, investors are very, very conscious in terms of where they're going to put their money. So if they realize that this country people are thieves, you're going to put up, like I've told you, we opened up that sector of transmission from an investor and I'm coming to your country and I know that I'm going to put up this line and I'm going to be suffering with thieves who are going to be cutting it. Then I write to the police, then I come and arrest them, then they come back tomorrow. It can make them not actually come to invest in the sector. So we that's why we engage you, that you can be you speak out for us out and not reach and tell our people, the consumers, and also tell the vendors if we get them, it's going to be serious. So we have looked at increased public safety risks, disruption of business, loss of income. Then I've also talked about of legal collection, revenue loss, loss of lives, network value and outages, and appliances, fire hazards, and also risk of erection. You have cases where people have died trying to vandalize lines. You have cases where people have died because someone, illegally was trying to connect and they have also died. So we have cases of electrocution. I think in the last report that police released said that 30 or 40% of the accidents that happened were through fire, and they said that the cause was electricity. So you can imagine what that means for the sector and what that means for us. But you see, people, the deaths that you're seeing are being caused by the fires that they are trying to cover, being caused by electricity. But what is causing that? Illegal connections. People who are not satisfied out there are trying to work on the network when they are not authorized. Now, we have also seen, we also know that there is a growing concern in terms of extortion and bribery. But you see, this bribery and corruption is by consumers and ourselves. When you power, I know this man. Let I see him working on the house. Yeah, let me call him. But you know the distributor is in your area. When you applied for power, the distributor came, connected you, you signed an agreement, a customer agreement. That's how you know them. They're in your area. But why do we choose to do the electrician? No right whatsoever. Tell the distributor that I have done this house wiring, please, and they do some tests. We also require them. We have a whole law that governs those electricians. We require them to test, require them to submit those completion certificates. And then they tell the distributor that now I'm done, please come and survey. What most people call survey, but it's called inspection. They come and inspect the house and they satisfy themselves that this house has been wired up to the standards and therefore you can connect it to the network. And what happens when they try to connect the house and the standards were not fulfilled? That network can trip. You know how many people are going to be affected? It means that me, one customer who's trying to connect to the network, but I use the Kamufu, the standards were not upright. Then is going to be off, and other people they are affected. But also there are equipment on the line that can. So that's what happens. So I've continued to extort money. But we've also seen cases where people either masquerade as UDCL officers or maybe they are UDCL officers. That money can be from. We allow money for maintenance. We also know that these circumstances are going to happen. What happens when the line trips? Someone has to come and rectify it. We have allowed that money to carry funds there. So to give them money. They're supposed to do that work because we have already provided the money to tariff. And most consumers don't know. And so someone will come and say, collect all of this 50, bring the money and we work on the transformer. Please report to us and then we get the people. Now, when you report to us, please help get a response, get recording, so that we prosecute that person successfully. We have enough evidence against them. You have reported, they've been requesting money from you, record them when you're on the phone, take videos. I mean, things are much with technology now we have, it's easier to get that evidence. And when you bring it to us, we'll be able to successfully prosecute that person because that is an offense. And it's something that we want to come out completely out of the sector. So the other issue is bypassing official one. Then they say, please come and connect me. There is a distributor. They have a mandate to connect you. They are supposed to. There is a phone. You're supposed to call them. There's a toll-free number. Call them, and they will tell us how we did not provide for in that tariff when we gave it to them, and they are operating that network. So UNICEF is also trying to fight the same vice within their workers. They have also taken them to this. They are prosecuted them. So if all of us fight the same vice results, and at the end of the day, it's faulty, transformer which is faulty, how can it break through? Because our people are still in the middle income. We have not yet attained that status. We still, are still managing. So if there is explosion, it's primary. How are we going to reach? But if we deal with those issues at the end of the day, we'll be able to know that at least on electricity, spend not more than this. You can grow yourself, your income, allow people their income and actually grow. And that's what we want. And that's what the government has been trying to find. So we also need to accept installation. Because the property can be damaged, people will die. Because there is this person you are called who's not certified. Now, you're going to look on our website, you're going to find there what we call certified permit holders. They are there. So if you were sure that the person says this is my name, you just open our website, you check everyone that is allowed to work as an electrician. We have put them on our website. If they are not there, then it means that we have not certified. If it is someone from UNICEF, they are supposed to identify themselves with an ID and talk about say that I'm a nutrition, this is how I'm identifying myself. I'm from this district region, and I've been sent as an electrician to work here. And that transparency is very good. But that transparency can only happen if our consumers, if the consumers know that most before everyone is a thief. They steal money from us. We poor already, we can't. Then tomorrow they tell us to pay for transformer. You see where the problems come from. That's not issues that some people out there who are actually making the government look bad when actually we try and every day. We know that we're not yet there, but we try every day that we do the right thing. The Act was amended in 2022. And when we were doing this amendment, it was very interesting. The MPs were very, very vigorous. They said, this power theft issue is very serious. So we have, when you look at, we have section 8, 8, 9, 90, we have all those offenses. Tampering, theft, interference, and the maximum penalty is 1 billion. 1 billion. They put it there. They really say they want to deal with this theft, this vandalism once and for all. And they put those huge. We have this 12 years, 7 to 12 years. We have those small offenses which are 1 to 2 years. We have different fines for the different offenses. So it is that serious because, like we have already talked about, the effects of this vandalism. So when you look at those sections, they provide for when someone tampered, when there's an illegal connection, where there is theft. Now, in the old law, it was very hard for us to prosecute this because theft was not clearly provided. So we go to the penal code to try and charge this person. But now in the Electricity Act, we have theft of electricity very clear. If we find the person is trying to steal electricity, we go under that section and charge them successfully. And we have cases. We have successful cases, and we charge these people the utilities code. There's an established a utilities code which is supposed to work on utilities standard wildlife. So you can see that the efforts are everywhere. The judiciary is also mindful that these electricity, these utility cases, they need to be expeditiously handled. So we don't take long in those cases. When we go to court before the month ends, like I said, when we bring your evidence and we have our file ready, we get our conviction and we go home. Yeah. So these are the consequences: criminal prosecution, financial loss, imprisonment, also access to electricity service. Definitely, the moment we find out that you're illegal, the first thing is they cut you off, right? They cut off the consumer, and the consumer is not going to have electricity until we resolve the issue. So why did you illegally connect? Charge you, and maybe someone else is going to apply. So yeah, there's going to be all those effects, and that's why we discourage it. And we also do a lot of sensitization for the community so that the consumers can understand some of these things. We are lucky that we have the RCC here. If you wait and conduct a whole stakeholder now from this information, it gives it to his people. It becomes much easier for people to understand some of these offenses and try to talk to the community to understand that this infrastructure that you see, please don't just say, I'm not back in electricity. It becomes your business when you have to. So if people are sensitized and they know that, oh, we have interesting cases. There's a we had in Kasanda, and the people themselves arrested the person. They went to the police station. They called us. They stayed with the culprit. We went there. So I told you we have a team of investigators. So they moved. We went there. We picked the culprit, brought the person, charged them, and it doesn't take us long. In 3 weeks, in a month, we have a sentence. So the community, we have seen them participate, but that's the community that is aware, that knows that these are offenses, it is people should not be cutting this electricity infrastructure, and that's where they send the message for us, and it has helped us, it has given us success. So also promote lawful, like I said, when we started up this investigation we were challenged by electrical youths, what we call youth electricians that were out there masquerading, wearing people's houses. But over the years, I can assure you that we have reduced those ones. And how did we do that? Initiatives that we put in place. The World Bank has started a project where we were trained freely, and it was free training, free for them to come and apply. We had PSFQ that also came through and supported us, and they had those training. There are those people who are not educated, they don't have the theory part, but they've been doing this work. That was the role. We had that intervention. We had professionals, CIT, are still into that. They learn hands-on, they know how to do this wiring. So they give them the theory bit that they don't know. Then they give them what we call a workers manual. We also and give them permits. So from when we brought that intervention, we have seen the number of permits increase. And that's why we also encourage that anyone that wants to work on electricity must be authorized. So you also support enforcement, like I talked about. Please take all the evidence, record the person, take a video, take a picture. That kind of evidence is very easy for us to use it, but and the prosecute successfully output. So if you support us in that way, and then you say, I just reported, please don't call me. But we call you to be a witness. Court is very friendly. We'll ask you a few questions, tell us what happened, because it's basically a story telling us what happened. So if consumers are aware, we will tell them to what they are able to come, give us that testimony. It's a testimony. We're not going to cross-examine you people, and we cross-examine on only the matters that you have testified about. So that is the support that we would require from you. You give us that support, then we can deal with this issue. successfully. Now, the role of consumers, I've talked about it. Use the certified work. Electricians report vandalism, illegal connections, engage with the licensed service providers, and also protecting our, our infrastructure. That is our role. Part of what we're doing is our role to sensitize you so that you're able to come and speak for us out there and let the people know what is happening in the sector. So, like my colleague said, we have a mandate. When you look at our section 9, gives us functions and it gives us what we're supposed to do. And some of them are these: issue license, approve standard, public awareness, ensure compliance. You may not see that public awareness clearly, but it says that we have a duty to ensure we protect consumers and how we protect them by getting to them. Then also collaboration with law enforcement bodies. We work with police. CID is the one that has given us those investigators. We work with the different police stations because when they are arrested, they are taken there. So we're in touch with them and call them and then we transfer some of the stuff. So the biggest message we have for today is that this is a national act. And if we protect it, we reduce losses, the tariff will go down, economic, social and economic factors will increase, we'll have more money, we'll increase the income, we'll deal with bribery, and therefore it becomes part of the drivers for economic growth. Okay, so those are some of the things what we have talked about: digitization, use of preferred persons, and I believe that if we do that, we'll be able to achieve what we want to achieve. Thank you very much.
Applause, guys. Tumanyi nnyo okusanyukira abantu tukirageko leero kyabagamba temunswaza Thank you, Council. Thank you for that. You know that electricity is a national asset and everyone is responsible for guarding and protecting it. Kubanga oli olwaleero ebyuma ebyo manya gwe ng'omuntu nawe kikola kikosa era kikukwatako emiwendo gy'amasaza kweyongera bwe gyeyongera era gokola ki gosasula n'olwekyo fenna ffenna amaaso gaffe Let's stand up. Let's stand up. Stand. You know, we are mindful about safety and our head. So we are very mindful about we are using head. We're using our head. Yeah. So I want us to write orange using our head. Okay? Orange. And I'm going to spell the word O R A N E. Come for your head. Thank you so much. You can sit. Now we are going to, I know that for the program, we are supposed to be reacting. However, allow us to have one more allow us to call the price setting, and cost structure. Because one is that you want to know what the cost of this is pay, isn't it? So allow us to listen to him. Then from there, we are going to open the floor for discussion. Is that okay? Thank you. And remain attentive as you have been. Michael, you are welcome.
Thank you, Ibrahim. And to see this room almost to its full capacity. You are welcome. For this text, mine is going to be simple, though it is an interesting subject. So I'll try to explain what the Electricity Regulatory Authority does when it comes to the price that you pay for electricity. All of us use electricity one way or the other. So the first presentation got parts of this illustration, but I just wanted to get back to it to explain something that is very critical. So this picture presents the current setup in terms of the structure following the amendment of the Electricity Act. So at the top we do have the policy and strategic direction that is given by the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development. And then just below that is the Electricity Regulatory Authority responsible for providing oversight in terms of regulation across the entire value chain. We know about generation, transmission, distribution, and consumption that the end user is of it. But something fundamental also changed in the year 2022 when the president assented to a bill that had been passed by Parliament, Energy into the Electricity Act, Chapter 157 of the laws of Uganda. So at the top, we do have eligible sellers and eligible buyers. I apologize for the color the extreme. But eligible sellers and eligible buyers is a creation of the Electricity Act that provides that right now, someone that is approved, a consumer that is approved by the authority can directly purchase the electricity from a generator or a transmission company without going through distribution or even without going through transmission and distribution. And the motivation behind this particular change is cost optimization. So later on, I'll explain the cost structure, but is now. However, we find ourselves in a situation. I just want to focus your attention at the bottom of that illustration. So we have generators that supply power to the transmission, which is typically above 6 or 33 volts, and then it goes to volts, and then last. So we find our network configuration that lines have already been constructed. Lines are going to move from the generation plant. They will go to those big substations that we know, the likes of Awanda, and then they will go to the small substations, moving through wires like the one that we have in Centenary Park. And then lastly, we shall have the distribution transformers across the road. And then power will come through a service cable or a solid to your house. Now, we find ourselves that the network is already existing. So even when you opt to buy direct from the generator, this power must be delivered somehow. There must be a road for the electrons to move. So what we have done on the side of this to do a direct structure where you move the required to something like gold. So for people that use the expressway, you are required to pay a toll for using. So it is similar that you're going to use an asset. However, that asset is only moving electricity, but you are not an actual sense using that electricity. So we have what we call the use is if you have decided to directly procure electricity from a generator or a transmission company. Now I needed to speak to why yeah why we do that. We first of all exist on the basis of what Charlotte has mentioned. So there is a legal framework as to why we do that. The moment Parliament decides to repeal that legal basis to exist, probably there will be some other form of regulation, but not ERA. So ERA does exist because of an act of Parliament that is enforced. But specific to the prices, we refer to Section 10 and Section 75 of the Electricity Act. Section 10 simply provides the functions of the authority. And if you recall, rules over them. So each and every license has got what we call a tariff methodology. Simply lays out your tariff is going to be determined by the authority. And I'll speak to the reasons as why that is important, because you are providing someone business, but they need to have sight of how they are going to recover money. To a person that is providing you debt in terms of money for you to put up this infrastructure, that becomes very, very important. So each and every license, we have an annex that is dedicated to describing the tariff methodology that assists the determination of the tariff. Then around the year 2014, the authority approved what we call quarterly tariff. I know quite a number of us have been coming here every quarter to have an engagement around the tariff for the succeeding quarter. So this quarterly tariff review methodology provides a visual of tariffs on a number of economic factors outside the control of the and we also speak to that. But the backbone of that is that you must have an economic regulatory framework that describes how you are going to do the tariff determination. We also have what we call the tariff cycling guidelines tools that we use to actually determine the tariff. These are predominantly external models. Now, typically, what we expect markets to look like is that there will be determination of demand and supply by its own output. So the forces of demand and supply are expected to determine the price. And that is what we call the free market. However, such markets are characterized by an equilibrium that may be efficient or may not be efficient. That may be efficient or not. And we also see tendencies of inefficiency that will lead someone to exit. You can think of a retail shop uh, next to your home, where if someone is going to sell the price of sugar is 10,000, you know your neighbor is selling it at 6,000, you're going to be forced out of business because you are being inefficient, including additional costs in your pricing structure because of your inefficiencies. Such markets punish such level of inefficiencies by exiting because there is free entry and there is free exit. And then we also need to make sure that prices encourage further investments into the sector. If you're going to set a price that is not going to be able to encourage additional investments, then that market will be inefficient. Market. We have some distribution lines running here, medium voltage. If we have two distribution companies, it will automatically mean that we are going to also use another medium voltage line. But this electricity is one premise, it is going to your house. So it is very inefficient for you to have two people that are supplying the same good at the same time to have one electricity markets are also known to be common, and they do have social talking to. We also have the household support and access from electricity. What we can also is going to lead us to a desired set of less performance or key performance indicators that are going to look the market as it the framework. So by doing that, we are trying to get a cost efficient price of the product. That's like the local as a retail shop that is competition. I've already spoken about investments that current investments beyond what we have because that's like because we have and so if you do not have additional generation capacity, then we shall go back to the class of 24, where every day we may use to publish a roster of each area of 20 and also important set prices when eventually given that this well-to-do prices are able to consume. Discussing the